So this is our webinar about the token service. We are announcing this, we are excited about it, and we have over 60 plus ecosystem partners already for this tokenization thing. We just want to tell you something about it today. So let's get into it. Let's see what this tokenization thing is. Now, you know, the vision of Hedera from the beginning has been to build a trusted, secure, and empowered digital future for all. And we really do mean all these things, that it will be trusted. Trust is the keystone of this whole thing, and empower you to build a digital future for everybody. We want everyone around the world in every kind of country to be able to participate in this new future. And so we want people to be able to create things and to be able to trust how they're interacting and how these things are operating, and to be able to have real things of value that they've created that they are transferable. And so we want to be able to support all of that. So the idea is that anyone can at any time carve out a piece of cyberspace for themselves and create new things, create tokens, but create other things too, just all kinds of things. And then to invite others to share with them. And so all the people can get together and be sharing. They can be sharing the things you create, playing games together, listening to things, consuming media together. You can then invite other people and they can join you, and they can also see what you're creating and help to create and interact with you socially and economically and in every possible way. And then the idea is that you have your little group doing these things, your piece of cyberspace, but there are others. And so we have all of these other pieces connected. So everybody is creating value, and we can transfer that value back and forth. And if we can do that, then if it is fast and fair and secure, it creates a new kind of world, a world where we really do have cyberspace empowering people to do everything. But it's got to be fast, fair, and secure. And of course, because we are doing tokenization, because we are creating things of value, we need to be able to transfer it, which means we need tokenization. So hello future, hello tokenization. So what is going on with all that? Okay, what we are doing is in Hedera, we've had this virtuous cycle. You have the ledger that has data integrity. You know that what you do with your files there are stored forever and until you delete them, but they're stored when they should be. That what has happened is an immutable record that you can always see on the mirror nodes, and no one can change that. That you can create things, you can send back and forth HBARs, and all of this, like the data integrity, helps support decentralized identity. So you can do things pseudonymously if you want, but you can also do things with identity. And then that helps the creation of value and the transfer of value. And that's the part, the blue part that we're talking about today. And then that then helps you have greater data integrity. And so it's a virtuous cycle. And so this is what we're talking about, is the value creation and transfer part. The world will be tokenized. This is actually true. The world will be tokenized. Now, what that means is not that everything in the whole world happens on ledgers, but that every part of the world ends up having value represented on ledgers. Every part of society, every part of the economy, every part of our finance, every part of the world interaction is going to end up having parts of it on ledgers. This is what's happening right now. Ledgers are going to grow until they have consumed the entire world. The world is going to be tokenized. Of course, that raises the question, well, what does that mean? So all tokenization is that anything that is a real asset or anything that you might own. So I own a house, I own a bottle of wine or a fine painting, or I own maybe intangible things. I own the copyright in a book that I've written. Any kind of ownership can be represented in ones and zeros in a ledger. Well, okay, we already have them in ones and zeros in databases. What's the difference? The difference is that if it's in a ledger, then you can transfer value and know for sure that it's happening without having to have a third party in the middle. And if you get rid of that, what's the result? Greater liquidity. It becomes really easy to transfer things and transfer little pieces of things. It's hard for me to send you a bar of gold, but I could send you electronically a gram of gold or a billionth of a gram of gold. I could pay you a nanogram of gold. You have incredible liquidity, and it's very easy to do these things. It can go across borders. It's just going at the speed of the internet. And then therefore, if you can do gazillions of these things every second, the price just plummets. And so we can actually transfer things if I send you a wire, it costs $30. We can transfer things for a fraction of a penny. That actually changes the world. I will use wires for lots of things, but there's lots of things I'll never use a wire for. I'm not going to send you $5 with a $30 wire, but I will send you $5 if it costs me a fraction of a cent. In fact, I'll send you 10 cents if it costs me a fraction of a cent. Or maybe I'll send you a fraction of a cent. So costs are reduced. And then settlement. So you have matching, and you have clearing, and you have settling. All those happen instantaneously, all at once, without a third party involved. This is the promise. This is where we're headed. And so this is what we're doing with tokenization. It just says, take anything of value, so gold and diamonds and art and whatever, and tokenize it, which means create a representation in the computer that tells us at any given moment who owns it and what the rules are for it. And then you can transfer the ownership and you can change the rules, but you can only change the rules according to the rules. So maybe there's a key that you created when you created it that allows certain things to happen, or maybe you didn't. And so those things can't happen. And it's all trustworthy, transparent, immutable records, and no one can corrupt it. This is why we want to tokenize value. And just like originally everything on paper eventually ended up in databases, it was still on paper, but it was also in databases. Same thing here. Everything of value will end up with tokens. Now, what is going to happen though if things are not on, a given ledger as a token? Maybe here's an example: a CBDC, a central bank digital currency. Maybe the banks of a country run their own private network that creates a token for their dollar or for their euro or for whatever their coin is. You can still use ledgers, other ledgers, public ledgers, to wrap the token. And this allows you to have the value and the ownership of the value and the information about that value and the rules for how to deal with that value actually jump from one ledger to another. And so everything in the world will end up either being tokenized or directly or wrapped, and so indirectly tokenized. And just the value of tokenizing everything is so valuable that the world will end up being tokenized. This is just very clear where the future is headed right now. So that's why we built Hedera. Hedera, of course, is a network, a bunch of computers. They talk to each other, they come to consensus, they use Hashgraph, it's really fast, fair, and secure. And then we have the council. And so the council governs what it's doing. It's huge organizations, universities and businesses and other organizations around the world in different jurisdictions, on different continents, in different industries with different interests. All are huge and well-known. Like a Fortune 500 company or a top 10 university. This is what we're talking about, running it so that you can have trust, because it's all about trust. And then we had that from the beginning when we launched. Then we've added things. So we added, a year ago, the consensus service, which allows you to create networks that use it for consensus, which gives you incredible speed and privacy and so on, and you can really scale up. Much more than just doing a smart contract like an ERC-20 that lets you tokenize that way. You can do really fast and powerful tokenization with even powerful anonymity if you want. But we want to do even better than that, make it even easier than that. And so now what we are announcing today is the tokenization service, which lets you do all of that at the native layer, at native speeds, at native scalability. And at the native layer, you can take anything of value and create a token for it, and anyone can do it. You don't need special permission. You can even be anonymous. We don't even have to know who you are, and you can create a token. And then you can use that token and you can give it to other people, and people can trade tokens, and we can have atomic transactions. I give you this token while you give me a different kind of token, or you give me H-bars, or even three ways. I give to you, you give to Alice, and she gives to me. And we can even do complicated things, and it's all at the native layer with the full trust. And a bunch of other features like we'll talk about in a second, KYC and fun stuff. And so then what do you do with that? You can build on this. All sorts of different applications, lots of different use cases that Mance is going to tell you about. And then the users can use it. And these are individuals and companies and even countries. Everyone, even devices, IoT, everybody can use what you build on top of these services on Hedera. And so that's what the tokenization is. And that is, the world is going to be tokenized. And we are so excited to be part of this revolution and right at the edge of this revolution. And I'm glad that you're on the ride with us. It's great to have you along. Mance, Why don't you tell us more about it?
Yeah, well, thanks, Leemon. And hello, everyone. It's very exciting to be here today, of course, announcing the tokenization service. As Leemon has sort of pointed out, first came the Hedera consensus service, now the token service. Many use cases start as a data integrity use case using the Hedera consensus service. In other words, we can take their information, create a digest of that information, get a consensus timestamp on the bundle of both the original information and its digest. And then in the future, when the user gives that same information to another party, they can prove when the information was timestamped and that the information hasn't been changed in any way. This simple function of HTS is important for innumerable use cases. For example, recording when a coupon has been used at a point of sale system, or recording when a vaccine has been administered, or recording images and video in war zones. The use of HTS makes it possible for parties to know that the information hasn't been modified, and also that all parties are seeing the same information. That's the value, fundamentally, of distributed ledgers. Tokenization is a natural extension of these data integrity use cases, where tokens are now being minted and exchanged to incentivize data sharing, ease asset trading, and unlock access to social content and experience. So let's look at this from this perspective. In a ledger, you can think of it as a table of records. And those records contain information, say in this case, about gold bullion, right? Each record has information about gold bullion. The value of distributed ledger, as I said, is that everyone is seeing the same information and the information can't be tampered with or modified. If we add, next slide, thank you. If we add tokenization, what we're really saying is let's take that same information, that record in the table, and let's encapsulate it inside of a token. It's the same information, except now it's in a medium that is designed for economic activity. Those tokens can now be traded, and you can think of it as if that record of information is now something that can be owned and traded as part of the token. The tokens flow across the network, across users of the network. But equally important, if not more important, is what this implies when we talk about interoperability across ledgers. What does that mean? Well, interoperability across public ledgers in this context simply means the trading of tokens or exchange of tokens, moving tokens from one ledger to another. That's what we're talking about here. That's the connection between consensus and Hashgraph, the Hedera consensus service for integrity, data integrity use cases, and now tokenization. With that, let's take a quick look at a demo that will show you what we're talking about.
Let's create a new token which requires a name and a symbol. Next, we'll specify whether the token is whole or fractional. A fractional token has decimals, whereas a whole token doesn't. Then we'll specify whether the token is variable or fixed. Being variable means we can mint and burn tokens, and we'll start with a supply of 0. Here we can specify whether the token's name, symbol, and a few other properties can be updated by signing a transaction with an admin key. Now we have some compliance features. These are optional, and if enabled, specify a key list, or threshold key which can sign compliance transactions. So here we specify if we can grant or revoke KYC for an account in relation to the token. We're now specifying if an account's balance can be partially wiped. And the last compliance feature is whether an account can be frozen. If yes, it's possible to specify whether all accounts are frozen by default or not for this particular token. We're now going to create the token, which sends a transaction to Hedera. All the compliance keys can be different, enabling delegation of compliance features to third parties. Now the token's been created, it's been allocated a unique token ID, which cannot change. We can now mint some tokens so that we can later transfer to Alice or Bob. And Alice and Bob need to associate with this new token in order to send or receive the token. This is to ensure that they're safe from airdrops, for example, which could net them a tax liability. We can now grant KYC to both Bob and Alice as the issuer. And finally, transfer some tokens to Alice. We'll transfer 50. And we'll now demonstrate a token transfer between users. We can, in fact, do a more complex transfer here, where Bob will send 20 of the first token to Alice. Alice will send 30 of the other token to Bob, and there will also be a 10 HBAR payment from Alice to Bob. Notice as the transfer completes that the token balances and the HBAR balance will have updated as a result of the transaction. We'll now go ahead and wipe some tokens from Alice's account. And then finally burn some tokens from the supply, noticing that the supply is reduced accordingly.
Okay, so what I want to point out is that while this was a recorded demo, this was captured live on the testnet. And this is one of the important factors of not using smart contracts. Leemon pointed out this was all native. What that means is there are no smart contracts involved. This is being done as part of the platform. Those are real response times. So in 2017, tokens were used almost exclusively as a way to raise capital for startups. The value proposition of tokenization was only beginning to be understood, with very little appreciation for its full range of use cases and token types that could be created. We fast forward now to today, 2021, and groups like the Interwork Alliance have created frameworks for understanding the definition and scope of token concept, including use cases, taxonomy and terminology. Early use cases of DLT, one of the oldest use cases of DLT was supply chain tracking, track and trace of supply chain activities, specifically recording when and where product was made and its flow through the supply chain. Tracking when and where product was made can help provide transparency and reduce fraud. Of course, there's value in using DLT for that use case, but creating a token that represents the item being produced makes it possible to not only record that same information that's already being recorded for track and trace, but it enables the buying and selling of that same asset by moving the token between accounts. So digital tokens are designed, again, for economic activity. And supply chain assets that are tokenized will increase efficiencies in traceability, provenance, and finance, and especially finance. Using tokens will change existing processes for purchase order financing, obtaining loans for working capital, purchasing shipping or product insurance, securing inventory financing, and invoice factoring. If you've sold a bunch of sneakers or whatever it is, assets, and you've got an invoice, you can take that invoice and go and get a loan against it. Soon, we believe, products and services throughout the world economy are going to be tokenized. And while tokenization today is still in its infancy, we already see many different token types and use cases for tokens today. Stable coins are just tokens pegged to the value of an underlying asset, such as USD or a basket of commodities. Security tokens are for regulated financial instruments, such as stocks, bonds, or derivatives. There are lending platforms today that provide loans for tokens and provide loans collateralized by tokens. Tokens are being used for payments for goods and services, including micropayments. And central banks around the world are working hard to enable tokens that represent their official currencies. In the gaming and collectibles industry, tokens are being used to provide in-game rewards, and they often represent in-game collectibles, some of which I'm sure you own. Manufacturers and service providers are modifying their loyalty and rewards programs to use tokens to incentivize commerce and across their application platforms. Global clean energy and sustainability efforts are using tokens to facilitate the exchange and trading of carbon credits, energy credits, and other use cases focused on environmental practices. So through a combination of the Hedera Consensus Service and the Hedera Token Service, Hedera now makes it possible to address all of these token types and use cases. And that's what is going to enable the token economy. So let's go a little bit deeper into some of these. Let's think about the energy sector. Let's start with the energy sector and the global push towards more sustainability and clean energy. Renewable energy certificates, they're also known as RECs, RECs, represent the energy that is generated by renewable energy sources, such as solar or wind power. Buying RECs is not equivalent to buying electricity. Instead, RECs represent the clean energy attributes of renewable electricity. Today's RECs market, there is a REC market, REC market. REC markets are fragmented, inefficient, and expensive. They're limited, but the energy industry has an opportunity to automate REC creation. That's funny. I didn't intend that to come out that way. REC creation and verification. Ease the exchange of RECs, speed up the buying and selling of transactions, the REC transactions, through low cost and decentralized platforms. The first steps start with automating the recording and verification of this clean energy that's generated. Again, using HTS. Let's say every 15 minutes we record and timestamp how much energy is generated by each solar panel in the United States. We create, using HTS, a trusted, near real-time auditable log. We're talking about thousands of records per second. The second step is the automatic creation of a digital REC, an REC, or a REC token using the Hedera Token Service, HTS, with the metadata around the clean energy that is generated in the generation event. This allows verified energy credits to be tokenized in a way that brings granular data to buyers. Maybe you want to know if the energy was sourced from an equitable environment, or doesn't have conflict minerals in its supply chain for sourcing the traded energy. All of this is provable in a shared world in Hedera using HCS in combination with HTS. It also creates a fair trading market. This gets into one of Hedera's most differentiating features, fairness, which is quite unique and mathematically provable on Hedera. If you put a solar panel on your roof, it can generate energy and you can get credit for it in fair order relative to the rest of the market. So if you decide to automatically move the credit you generated to the market, the REC market, and transfer it for sale, you know, relative to all other credit generators, that the order of your transaction is not going to be manipulated. If the bidding and asking is done on the ledger, your market is fair and your trade is fair. The current administration, today's administration, promotes clean energy and climate innovation. And corporate leaders around the world and the United States such as Microsoft, Google, Amazon, BP, have committed to major clean energy investments. Microsoft has committed $1 billion in the next 10 years to be carbon negative. Google is committed to operate on carbon-free energy by 2030. Tokenizing and exchanging RECs on a fast, low-cost, trusted, and decentralized platform is going to be critical to achieving these global sustainable energy goals. Well, let's extend it. So who might be interested in buying REC tokens that are minted on Hedera? Supply chain and manufacturing enterprises are natural buyers of the digital RECs in order for them to meet their carbon-free goals and offset their current carbon emissions. Supply chain participants would also leverage blockchain or Hashgraph for traceability and DeFi use cases. Let's take the example of a supply chain ecosystem manufacturer manufacturing food products in South America, from the farm to the end consumer, for example. The first step in a typical supply chain use case is to provide product transparency to the consumers by tracking traceability through the supply chain. So here we are again, recording verifiable logs of supply chain transactions, time-stamped on Hedera using the Hedera Consensus Service. What becomes more interesting, though, is how you incentivize all partners along the supply chain to share their data and contribute to the traceability of their products across the supply chain. Let's take a farmer in South America as an example. What if now one decentralized traceability platform were to reward farmers with microlending loans, microlending tokens based on the Hedera Token Service for an agreement that they share their product data as part of the in exchange for receiving the tokens. The farmer could be accumulating these microlending tokens over time, which they could convert into a microloan in their local currency with the click of a text message on their mobile phone or on their smartphone. The microloan then would be accessible to the farmer through a traditional payment rail, such as Visa or MasterCard. And it could be collateralized using the farmer's microlending tokens that they've received. In this way, DeFi can be used for the benefit of supply chain participants. It creates an ecosystem of purpose-driven lenders who provide microfinance opportunity to disenfranchised supply chain participants. So again, here we see the complementing value of starting with data integrity as a use case using HTS and extending it with a tokenization use case using the Hedera Token Service, HTS. And then finally, let's now consider the world of creators, artists, and athletes who are interested in engaging their fan base through new social interactions based on direct messaging or video calls or access to special perks, etc. So assume for the moment that there is a famous NBA player who scores 35 points against the Warriors in a Sunday basketball game. The shoes he wore in that game can be easily tagged with a unique digital identity. And then those shoes get listed on a decentralized platform to be sold in the secondary market to the athlete's fan base. Whoever purchases this pair of collector shoes in the future, perhaps years from now, can uniquely verify the authenticity of the product, the shoes. This example is a typical use case of using the Hedera Consensus Service to verify the authenticity of products, enabling an athlete to engage his fan base in a unique way, which is kind of cool and interesting. But again, if we add HTS, the Hedera Token Service, we get a whole new world of possibilities. The same NBA player or any other creator, a singer, an actor, an athlete, or a YouTuber could decide to issue creator tokens using HTS, which could then be used to provide rewards or sold to their fan base. With these tokens, the fans can then unlock access to new content, personalized experiences such as one-on-one direct messaging or video with the creator, or other unique perks, merchandising, concert access, etc., those types of things. This is the premise of a creator economy that gets managed through a fully decentralized tokenization platform. So these are examples, not of a vision of the distant future. These examples are being implemented today by companies that are using the Hedera Token Service, and in many cases, HTS as well. But that's just the beginning. Tune FM is issuing the Jam token for fans streaming music to pay artists directly using micropayments. Power Transition is tokenizing and transferring energy via microgrids. Dovu is creating a tokenized carbon asset ecosystem to provide income to land managers and farmers. Diamond Standard is the world's first diamond market maker, issuing the Diamond Standard coin. Everywhere is issuing tokens for use across IoT sensors and data. The Chopra Foundation is providing the Love in Action token for mental well-being. Gavel is issuing tokens to provide incentives to connect and do good deeds at a hyperlocal level. Toko by DLA Piper is providing a security tokenization platform to unlock value from assets, including real estate and art. Entrust is improving agricultural and vintner supply chain management by issuing tokens against rare bottles of wine from the Clara Valley. Rushine will be issuing tokens against rare whiskey. Taskbar is helping to create a level playing field for the tokenized gig economy. But simply issuing a token isn't sufficient. In addition to the issuers, you need a full ecosystem of exchanges, wallet providers, custody providers, system integrators, standards bodies, and audit and assurance agencies, all needed to enable a token economy. And today, we're excited today to have more than 60 ecosystem partners that are participating in our launch of the Hedera Token Service. So it's been a long time coming. You heard us talk years ago about this vision for being able to create shared worlds and exchange goods and services and work together and play together in these shared worlds. The mechanics over the years have been worked out. We're beginning to see the realization of the vision. There's more to come. We also have ongoing a hackathon. There are more than 600 participants in the hackathon using the Hedera Token Service today. We invite you to join us on March 2nd to hear the winners of the hackathon and to see what you all, those that are helping and participating in our shared vision here, have created using both HTS and the Hedera Token Service. Thank you all again for being here. We're very excited to be doing this with you and are overwhelmed by your enthusiasm for the new product. And we appreciate your participation. Leemon?
Yes, we do appreciate you. Thank you for joining us. This is exciting. While Mance was talking, I was reading your comments, and just everyone's excited about this because this is changing the world. And so thanks for being along the ride with us, and for you going out and creating the things on top of this that will really change the world. I can't wait to see what you do. Thanks.